gentlemen, welcome back to the MaxBet podcast, a podcast dedicated to gaming.
We're your hosts. I'm here with Landon Michael Jones, and I'm Mike McKiskey. Let's get started.
Let's roll. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MaxBet podcast.
We're here, man. We're doing it.
We're always doing it.
We're doing it right here, live in the Light and Wonder studio. That's what we got.
What's up, man?
Brother, it's my turn to share a little weekend adventure.
Oh, shit.
I texted you
Let's
immediately.
roll.
So we took kids to Legoland last week.
Yeah.
Simple trip for us, right? For those unfamiliar with the Vegas to California geography, there's like one highway, I-15, bang, right? But when that highway gets shut down, things get weird. So we're coming home, right? It's 5 o'clock.
Yes.
5 o'clock.
Oh, I haven't heard this story.
Yeah, I know,
yet.
because I told you, I just said remind me. So, and we took the minivan, right? So we have two cars in the family. I drive an F-250. My wife opted, her choice, for the minivan. So
You don't have to qualify that.
I feel like I do because I
Minivans
feel
are
like,
cool.
I don't know, I just don't want anyone thinking I made her drive it. Like she chose whatever she chose that. And so Honda minivan, not relevant, just shout out to Honda because they earned a lot of my fan points this past week.
Honda's good, man.
So we're cruising back from I-15, from San Diego I-15.
Yeah.
And we're coming up like, I don't know, we passed Baker, which for those that they don't know, I'm about an hour from home. But my map is telling me I'm 2 hours from home, so something's wrong. So we get an alert, hey, the I-15 is closed. Like there was a multi-car accident.
Okay.
Closed. So then I'm going, so they go, so just get off at this, whatever road, Simi Valley, something. Cool, we'll go around it. So we go and we get off and we're cruising. And I'm like, okay, I trust Google Maps. I'm like, I just do. I just go, this is great. So we're cruising down and no big deal. And then it just says, hey, in like 500 feet, turn right. I look over to the right. There's an ATV trail. Like it was not a paved road.
Like
it
a
was not
four-wheeling trail?
Like a four-wheeling trail. Like something that your Jeep enthusiast club would love to ride. And so meanwhile, as I get off the highway, there's probably 50 other people that got the same Google alert that are all now going. I see people just hooking a U-turn going, not doing it. So I'm sitting here in a minivan going, I don't know, I think we can make it. so the only thing that made me take this road.
What gave you the confidence that you could make?
I just think that for me,
trail?
I wasn't I just, in my mind, I was probably still in my truck. Just going,
Okay.
I'm going to say no.
You're
I'm
an
a truck guy.
eco-friendly van.
I'm in built
by Honda.
That's right. Newer.
Okay.
But so I was surfing this thing. And so then I'm thinking, well, then now there's like no reception. I'm like, well, it's either turn back around and go wait for 3 hours for this accident to clear out or just see where this road goes. So I look at my wife. I go, what do you think? She's like, let's do it. so shout her out for that. but it's just kind of like, she nailed it. And so we're like, okay, a mile in, she goes, I should not have agreed to this. But there's a truck in front. So there's an F-150 in front of us and some SUV behind us. I'm like, the only 3 out of like 50 cars that took it were us 3. We made it, obviously.
But you're lucky that you got approval before.
I've been married long enough to know, ask before you off-road, especially if you're in the van. So we're cruising. The kids think it's the greatest thing in the world. So they're bebopping along, right? Meanwhile, we're a mile in. The next instruction says, in 7 miles, turn right. So Desiree is now computing in her mind going, we're going to have to be out here for a while. Like, this is not a short, like we were thinking originally, hey, maybe it's just a short trip across this ATV trail to a real road. Yeah. No, it was like 45 minutes of like dirt road drifting. So about halfway through, I look over, she's saying the Hail Marys, going, okay, please get us out of it. Because now it's getting dark, and I'm thinking if we get stuck or if like...
They used to have cars around you.
2. One in front, one behind. That was what gave me the confidence. Because I was like, if we get stuck, the guy behind us has to help us. He can't go anywhere. So we didn't get stuck. It was all good.
It was that tight of a dirt road?
It was, there was times where I was like sideways. You know, you get on an ATV and you're like sideways a little bit. I was like, that's the van. I'm like, this van is...
Does it have 4-wheel drive?
It says all-wheel drive,
Ooh,
which I learned.
fancy.
So you ever seen, you haven't watched this. There's a cartoon called Bluey that the kids are nuts about. It's Australian, right? We always bust the Australians about it. So there's a road where there's a scene in the show where they're like, the dad's like, oh, we can't go on that road. It's 4-wheel drive only. She goes, what's our car? It's all-wheel drive. She goes, well, how many tires do we have? 4. And dad just light bulb moment goes, we're doing it, right? That's how I felt. I was like, well, I got 4-wheel drive, kind of, right? We're all spinning. So anyway, man.
Did you think you were going to get stuck at any point?
There was a few moments where I was worried that I would, like the wheels would not stay touching because there's no ground clearance, right? So you're going over like, I don't know, little trenches. Like there's trucks had worn this out. So obviously the middle section is higher. So I got nervous that I was just going to be like a turtle, like just stuck with the wheels in the air.
That is...
We worked it out. And then there was somewhere, it's like Sandy Hill, you're going up. So I'm like, I just got to gun it. So she's like, what are you doing? I go, if I don't gun it up the hill, I'm going to get stuck and slide down the hill, right? So we go flying up the hill. And
you can get stuck super easily on those
I'm well
roads.
aware. So the good news is I know how to drive in off-road because I'm used to doing it in the truck. The difference is this was just a family minivan loaded full of kids and presents and whatever else and made it.
last week I towed a van out of the road that you're talking about.
I believe you. Yeah. I would not choose it again. I mean, now that I know the ending, you would do it again. But if I now, like the next time I was there, I'd probably go, lucky. You can't get that lucky twice.
This is the first time I've said this. My weekend was not as eventful as yours.
Usually you have the more eventful weekend.
I feel like.
Yeah.
But by the way, if you would have called me and got stuck, I would have been the first one out there.
I appreciate that.
Pull you
Here's
out.
the problem. Couldn't have called you. I would have been like hoping SUV guy would take me with him so I could come call you from like Good Springs, Nevada or something.
You hiking to the top of the next peak.
But so then as you get to be a dad, like I laugh. I don't think I ever cared about this, but now I'm like full dad, like road trip time. Like I would make good time, right? Like stupid idiot stuff. And so we get there and before we take the off-road, it says I'm supposed to be home at like 8 o'clock. By the time we get done dirt roading, 7:30. I'm like, hey, we made 30 minutes up in this like gravel drift, and they're just like,
and
my wife's like, you're insane.
Fun. Kids had a good time.
Yeah, because I think the ending fuels the fun. Like I think in the moment, the kids thought it was great. Like even Hank's going, he goes, that was great. We gotta be doing. He goes, this is like a ride that we're just at Legoland. It's like a real life ride. I was like, he couldn't have had more fun. But
let's talk about Legoland for a minute.
Yeah.
I've never gone.
Okay.
What is the rides that you fit on at Legoland?
Most all of them, dude.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a couple that are definitely designed for toddlers that like, not saying like Desiree could fit on, but you just don't. Like you
but
don't
they have
need
like
to.
Exciting rides there?
I wouldn't say exciting.
Yeah.
They're like you and I wouldn't.
Younger kids, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the 5 and 6 year old kids think they're great. Like there's no loops in the roller coasters, right? Like it's little basic drops. But when you're 5, that's awesome. If your kids are 7, 8, 10, skip it. Don't go there.
And I'm assuming at Legoland they have the mega store where you can buy anything Lego.
Correct. That's where I get all my Legos. So I got a new Camaro coming. So
that's
I bought it. I haven't built it yet,
question.
but Hank and I'll crank that out as we go.
So Mike loves to build Lego cars.
Big kid at heart.
With his son, and he's on like 7 right now. What car? Do you know all the cars you've built?
Yeah, I built a Mustang. I built an old 63, I think. 63 Mustang. We built the Ghostbusters Ecto 1. We built the DeLorean. That was pretty cool. What else have I got
Porsche,
in there?
right?
Porsche in there. Yeah. We built the
There's a truck, I think.
Nope, no truck. But we built the Technic, the Fast and the Furious car, like in the Lego Technic version. We just bought a Camaro. Yeah, we love it. And then that's just the stuff that I build for that I like. He likes all the ninja stuff, and we build all kinds of palaces and stuff.
Does he build his on his own?
He does now. He's all stoked. So every time we go to the Legoland park, we let them pick a set that they can build. So sometimes they build complicated ones, sometimes easiest, kind of dealer's choice.
It's
so
interesting.
He picked one now. He's 5. He picked one that's a 9+, and he's like so stoked. He's like, I'm doing a 9-year-old Lego set. And I'm like, yeah, man, keep going. You're a smart kid. Like,
and I bet he
such
nails it.
Oh, he's hammers. He's got the patience of like, I don't know, what's the most patient thing in the world? That's him. He could just sit there all day. It doesn't frustrate him. He just goes, oh, I got it wrong. Okay, let me do it again. Like he's like, I don't know where he gets it from because it's not me, but.
That's one of those timeless things. I remember when I was 5, 6, 7, building Legos in my room, and I was like, I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get this done.
Yeah, I think because it's fun. Maybe it's more patient. Like, and for me, it's fun, but I don't have the same struggle. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've built things, so it's like not it's hard, I guess, for a grown man as it is for a 5-year-old kid naturally. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, he loves it, and so that's how we bond. Like, we'll hang out and build them together.
Because I built that bus.
Yeah.
If you want a challenge. I told you I did this. So they come, the Lego sets.
Yeah.
The Lego sets come in like 5, 6, 7 bags, and each bag is a
They're
step.
labeled number 1. Yeah.
I got my Lego set, and I was like, sick, tons of Legos. I ripped first bag open, put it in a big bowl. I ripped all the bags open and put them in the bowl, and then I realized that there were steps, and I was like,
horrible.
Oh shoot, this is gonna take.
Because like I don't know the size of that bus, but like for example, the car we just bought is 1,500 pieces.
That's like what it's similar.
Yeah, they're
to
all in that. They're all in that
yeah.
range, right? And so you're going, that's a lot of pieces to sort through.
Yeah.
We make it as easy as we can. Like we'll open the number 1 bag, then we sort it by color.
Yeah.
Right, because it's easy to filter through. So when you get to the page, you go, okay, I need 2 of those black things, 1 green one, and boop, 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 done.
Yeah.
Like it goes faster. You did the opposite. You just dumped them all in some giant candy dish.
It's gnarly. But it got done.
You're like the guy that does the puzzle upside down with no picture, just to do the backs, like just for the challenge of it. Yeah, it's like, congrats, man! You won no trophies.
Well, I did not have an exciting weekend like you. I'm glad you made it out of the desert.
Me too. Shout out Honda, man. That thing. I was not. There was times where I had to be calm for the family, right? Because you're the father figure. I'm driving. Like if I'm stressed, they're all going to lose their mind. But internally, like a duck under the water, I'm like, I don't know if we're going to make this. Like I started thinking, are we camping tonight? Like, how are we going to get out of here? Like, it was going to be a little sketchy.
Honda's the real deal, man.
For me.
Fun fact.
Okay.
F1. Red Bull Racing, currently in the lead right now.
Okay.
Over Verstappen. Talking F1, Formula One.
Okay. Yeah, I know what F1. You're saying Honda, the team.
Their engine, Red Bull uses Honda.
Huh.
And they're beating
the
Mercedes.
winners.
They're beating all the big.
The only
car
reason
companies.
I knew that is there was a commercial because I guess I don't know how Honda started lawnmowers or something. They were like, "Oh, you're electric bikes or something," and then, they were like,
"Yeah,
oh,
they said we could only do bikes. Look at us now.
Now we're F1 champions." It's like, oh, sweet.
You know what's funny is I was thinking of that same commercial when I was like, Honda really is doing it, man.
They're doing it, man.
They're out in the minivan, out in the desert, just getting families through traffic jams and just crushing it.
Well, I got to eat it too because I was the biggest anti-minivan guy. Yeah. Right? Like I was sitting here just going, why do we want to own a minivan? I'm like, dude, you could get a Tahoe, you get an SUV, like something that I'll drive. I don't want to drive a minivan. I like driving this minivan. It's pretty sick. It whips around, especially compared to the truck. You
Makes
can navigate
it easy with the moms, the double sliding doors. You don't have to be slamming into people's cars.
Then I remembered today. So it's a friend of mine when years ago. She was my first boss. She was married to Stephan Bonner, UFC fighter.
Wow.
He recently passed away. So, but he was an awesome dude, right?
Yeah.
He was just he's like a black belt in 4 different disciplines. Like he was he was the Forrest Griffin fight that kind of put UFC on the map, right? So he's like a Hall of Famer. He drove around a minivan for training because she would say like, look, they drove, I think Cadillacs, but they were like, for training, the gear's all stinky. So she goes, he'll be at the stoplight and guys will pull up like, look at this loser. And then they'll see it's him and go, sorry, sir. Like, we know who you are and we're not going to talk trash anymore. I'm like, yeah, I don't feel quite like that, but that's
This is going to be a little longer intro, but
that's right.
Stephan Bonner, way back in college, I remember the Forrest Griffin Stephan fight.
American Psycho.
Right when kind of UFC was coming in.
That was the number one. That was the tough.
Do you remember Blue Martini when it used to be cool back in the day?
Yes, had the wristband.
Saw Stephan Bonner at Blue Martini, and I was like, yo, Forrest! And he just looks at me, he's like,
you almost died. You don't even know.
You're an idiot. And I go, oh, shit. Stephan's the man.
You couldn't have done that. That might have been the worst possible move.
I didn't care. It probably happened a lot because people got that mixed up.
So I asked, but I did ask him one time. I said, hey, so like you don't. I mean, he looks tough. Right? He has, he had like cauliflower and all that. I go, you ever anyone never get to sideways with you in a bar? He goes, only one time. I go, so what'd you do? He goes, well, I didn't want to hit him because like now he's at fault, right? Like he just beats the wheels off of some guy. Like that's bad for him. So he goes, so he threw a punch. He goes, I just caught the punch, used it to choke him out, laid him down, and he woke up later. I was already gone. And I was like, that's the best story I've ever heard. Like how skilled must you be that's like your story. Some guy's all amped up on whatever he's got going.
Dragon, crouching tiger
just going,
stuff.
we'll see you later, pal. I'm not interested in this fight. Like I'll just set you down and go. The guy woke up, not a scratch on him, wonder what happened. Could only imagine.
Yeah, you went to sleep, sir.
But we are not talking to fighters.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you for sticking around. If you're still listening to our intro here, we have a...
this is a cool one.
This is a great one. We got a great guest today. You probably know him as the Wizard of Odds. That's how you probably know him.
That's right.
But his name is Michael Shackleford.
Also correct.
And he is in the building.
He's in the building. He's going to explain a little math, a little history of how he got the name.
A couple math guys here ready to ask math guys a couple math questions.
Yeah, a couple of non-math guys getting into math. But this will be fun. Table game guy and a gambler.
All right, well, let's
do
get multiplying.
Check it.
Let's roll. Welcome back to the MaxBet podcast. Today we have a very special guest in the house, Michael Shackleford, also known as the Wizard of Odds.
The Wizard of Odds, yeah.
The Wizard of Odds. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
And then special shout out to you, sir, because you accepted the challenge. So Benny Mancino, literally last episode, by the time it airs, maybe 2 episodes ago, called you out within a day. You're like, let's do it. Like, no hesitation. So appreciate that. It's always good when you answer the bell. Somebody set out for you. So,
yeah. Well, have you done any other podcasts like this, or?
Yeah, I've done several.
Yep.
But this is the first one, I believe. No, it's not. But I haven't done very many face to face. They're usually over Zoom.
Yeah,
okay.
We feel a little better energy when we all sit here.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start right in. Wizard of Odds. Where'd that come from? How did you decide? I'm assuming. I mean, you're a mathematician. I'm assuming by background, and then you just decided one day to start the website Wizard of Odds and become the go-to math guy for all things gaming, or?
Yeah, it's a kind of a long story,
Yeah,
but
we
in
got
the
time.
mid-90s, I got tasked with making an internal website for the government, and I enjoyed it so much that after it was done, I wanted to make more websites, but they didn't have any more work to do that.
Yeah.
So I started to just create my own, and the first one was about math, and then I made one about baby names, and then I made one about gambling. And
So baby names feels oddly interesting. So was that just tracking the most popular baby names at the time, or what was the gist? Why would I visit that website? Like, what was it going to tell me?
Okay, so I'm proud to say that I am the first person to tabulate baby name popularity on a nationwide basis.
Interesting.
And this is because in the 90s, I was an actuary for the Social Security Administration.
Wow.
Calculating how much money any change in the law would cost or benefit the trust funds. And one day, when I didn't have much to do, and my wife was expecting at the time, I wondered what are the most popular baby names right now so I can avoid them. Being a Michael, I've always disliked the popularity of my name. So it was really quite easy for me to write a program against our data to see what were the most popular names for births in 1996, which was the most recent data we had at the time. And bam, there it was. And I thought, my eyes are probably the first to see this information.
That's wild, yeah.
And I bet the public would really like it. So I just put it up on my own personal website because I knew it would take an enormous effort to jump through all the hoops to get this endorsed by the government. I just did it.
Right.
And it was an enormous success, even bigger than the gambling page.
Wow.
And
Well, probably more people have babies than have gambling outings or whatever.
Curious what he named his kids now. I'm like, what was the name that came?
Yeah.
It's tough picking a name because both the mother and the father have to agree to it. And my kids are not named anything brilliant, but I just tried to stay out of the top 40.
Yeah.
And with Aiden, who you just met, he with the most recent data that I had at the time, Aiden was like way down at number 50, but just out of nowhere, his name shot up in popularity into the top 10.
Oh,
so
wow.
I really blew it with that one.
That's all right. See, it's funny. We have two different takes on the Michael thing. So I'm Michael as well. I loved that I was always number one. Like, we'd be like, what's the most popular name? Michael. Damn right. Like, I'd be like, like I would wear it as a badge of honor, not as who are all these other kids with my name. But yeah, I could see where that would be frustrating the other way.
I tried to change my name in second grade.
From
because
Landon to
nobody
what?
had Landon. I thought I was the
You
outcast.
wanted to be Michael?
I want to be Ryan.
Ryan?
Close enough to Michael, yeah.
That's good. Ryan's pumped back there
me.
behind the board.
Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to be Monty after Monty Hall because I love game shows.
Okay, there you go. That's another good one.
But we got off track here.
That's
So
okay.
I was talking about the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So my gambling page was originally just called Mike's Gambling Page, and it was just a bunch of analysis of casino games. And it became also very popular, and through no advertising at all, I think it became the most trusted website about gambling on the internet. And then one day at work, another slow day, I was reading the paper, and there was an article that a Chicago gangster by the name of Donald Angelini died, and it just mentioned that his moniker was the Wizard of Oz. And I thought, that would be a good name for my website. And now that he's dead, he's not going to come after me.
So you had the gambling page going, and this is breaking down basic strategy for folks that are like never played blackjack, for example. They're going, okay, here's how you could maybe tilt the odds in your favor a little more, and that's like the premise of the website at the start.
Yeah, the premise was the same as it is now.
Oh, okay,
is here are the rules of a casino game. Let me analyze it. Let me figure out the best way to play it. And then here are the odds, assuming that you play it the right way. And I also touch on side bets, rule variations, all kinds of obscure stuff. But it's a mathematical look at casino games.
Did you ever work for any other gaming companies outside of your own Wizard of Oz website? Did you work for another company?
I worked for the Venetian a short time but that's the only time like as an employee. But I have worked on a freelance basis for lots of companies, including yours.
Yeah. Interesting. So that's wild. So I don't even brush over the mobster comment, but like, how good is that? So did you ever get any blowback? So you immediately go to wizardofodds.com, and then did like the Angelini family go, hey, bud, like, this is our, I don't know what you call the Don. This is the king that just died, and you're stealing his name already? Like,
no.
They weren't internet savvy back then, so they probably didn't even know.
Absolutely. That family never contacted me, but there's an antique store in Alabama called the Wizard of Odds, like in Odds and Ends.
Oh, interesting.
And the owner sent me a very nasty letter, and he threatened to take legal action. And I reminded him that there were other people to have this idea besides us, including a old trivia show starring Alex Trebek that predated Jeopardy.
Oh, interesting. Really?
So I claim no trademark or anything to the name. So obviously several different people have thought of it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. But, if you were going to tell me to guess who would be the most irritated with him for having the name, wouldn't have known about the mobster, but I can tell you, I would for sure not have guessed an odds and ends store out of Alabama. That's not the kind of, who's going to be mad at the antique dealer?
Yeah, it's like I'm stealing business from him.
Yeah, because they were looking for an old desk, and they somehow found the rules to blackjack switch, and they were really confused. It's like, come on, buddy. That's wild.
That is crazy. I guess antique sales weren't doing so well, so he thought he could try to figure out how to get
juice
money
it up over here. Yeah, from
Michael.
the Wizard. Yeah, that's interesting. So, okay, so this is just a passion of yours. So is it like, are you just interested in all things math then? Is that kind of how that goes? Like, it's just, because what I heard you say is you're doing actuarial work for the government. Sounds like Social Security. My personality set would say that's a very boring day-to-day life. I'm sure it's exciting if you have the right kind of mental programming. And then you're just going, look, there's math everywhere, so let's just start getting into it. Baby names and then gambling. Were you yourself a gambler? Were you frequenting, Atlantic City or other gambling spots before you got into this? Or what about the math of gaming drew you in, I guess, to start? Because it seems like an interesting niche to find, 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I just love gambling. I have been looking for a good bet ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And like a common one was we had a basketball hoop on our driveway, and I would challenge anyone, even money, you can make a free throw behind a certain line.
Okay.
And the most athletic kids in the neighborhood could not say no. They had to rise to the challenge.
I would for sure take that bet.
But it was obvious that nobody could go over 50%. So they would do it over and over again, and it was just easy money.
So you're looking at it going, at worst, this is a wash for me because you might get me one, and that's it because you're going to miss the next one.
Just running a gambling ring outside your hoops.
Your mom's looking out like, Michael, why is there 50 kids in line? They all think they're smarter than me. Don't worry,
How'd
Mom.
you buy those new Jordans?
Yeah, new shoes. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I tried to keep it friendly, so it was often just like a quarter. I think my maximum bet was $1.
Yeah.
And I think overall, probably their percentage was like 25%. And then dealing blackjack to just kids, easiest way to make money because they don't know what they're doing. You can give them the best possible rules, and they'll be doubling on 12 and stuff like that.
As a kid, doing that to kids, probably one of those things we all did, but now it's frowned upon.
Yeah, so do you play tables and slots? You pretty much any sort of gambling you're interested in? Or?
I was initially very interested in blackjack, and I was studying up on it before I even turned 21. I was so eager to turn 21 and make my first trip to Vegas. And while I lived in LA at the time, and I came here or to Laughlin a lot to count cards, and I never did that well on it on a monetary basis. But I mean, I was just a red chip bettor, but I just love the mathematics of it. And
I love how he just openly admits he's like a card counter.
Technically not illegal.
It's not technically
frowned upon,
correct.
as they would say. But it's not.
I make no apologies for trying to get the odds in my favor as much as possible while not cheating. And so absolutely really got into card counting. And then I moved to Baltimore for a while, and then I kind of fell out of the gambling scene for a while. But then when I moved here, got really into video poker, tournaments, sports betting, any way I could perceive an advantage.
Interesting. So are you seem like the kind of guy then that are you studying the games prior to even sitting down? I'll sit down at a game, new game, let me see it. No history of the game, no knowledge of the odds, no strategy. Just go, well, let's try 3-card, or obviously I play that, but let's try the new game.
Video poker is an interesting one too.
Yeah, but I'm
so different.
But I'm guessing, are you sitting down going, let me analyze all the math? So do you do homework before you try a new game, I guess is what I'm asking, or will you just sit down and try to learn it on the fly?
I am a big advocate of knowing what you're playing.
Sure.
So you should know the rules and know the strategy. However, let's say that I wander into whatever casino and I see a game that I've never seen before, and it doesn't have a rack card, I might play it a little bit until I understand the game, and then I take notes, and then I'll go home and analyze it for my website.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, it's wild just to think, like, because how much money I'm probably losing by not doing that.
What's your favorite video poker game?
Whatever has the highest return, but when I was more active at it, the only strategies I had committed to memory were Jacks Are Better and Deuces Wild.
Are you going to play a volatile style game like Triple Double, or do you play anything outside of the Jacks Are Better? Or?
Usually when I played video poker, it was my goal to accumulate a lot of points to get good mail or invited to tournaments.
Yeah.
And I found that at most casinos, the best pay table was either 9-6 Jacks Are Better or some form of Deuces Wild, either full pay or what's called NSU Deuces.
Yeah.
And so those are the strategies I committed to memory. But if given the choice between high and low volatility, I'll always take low.
Yep.
I view gambling as like a math problem, and every professional gambler hates volatility. So...
So you guys are both video poker, I don't want to say pros, but very close to it. So just to back up for a second, when you say things like 9-6 Jacks Are Better, what does that mean? So for folks listening in their car going, I don't even know what that is, like, because I'm the kind of guy who would listen to something like this and go, well, I want to go find that game, right? So like, if I'm sitting down at a video poker, probably a multi-game, I see Jacks Are Better. How do I know it's 9-6? What does 9-6 even mean? Like, give us like the 101 version of the video poker style.
Yeah, sorry, I take it for granted everyone knows these things.
That's why we're here, to help make sure everybody understands.
So on every video poker game, there's a pay table. It shows you what every hand pays. So 9-6 means that a full house pays 9 and a flush pays 6. And by the way, it's very difficult to find anymore.
It's usually,
what's
like
it normal?
7-5 now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the airport is 6-5. Usually
terrible.
the best you'll find Jacks Are Better is 9-5 or 8-6.
Interesting. So they're taking that point away just to make it a little harder for you to beat them. Yeah.
You love when you're just hammering Deuces Wild, and then you switch to like Jacks Are Better, double, and your mind, you just have to switch back.
Oh yeah, that's
playing.
tough.
Yeah.
And you hate it when like you switch, but then you make a strategy based on the game you were playing before, and I will beat myself up for that. I don't tolerate mistakes very well.
Yeah, interesting, because what I'm hearing you both say is that the strategy for each of these subsets of video poker, right? Because again, I'm not I play video poker mostly with you, Lennon. So Triple Double seems like our kind of normal game, and so that would be my pre-programmed style. But if I took that strategy, it sounds like the Deuces Wild, they'll be laughing me out of the casino going, thanks for the donation, pal, right? Like,
pretty much, yeah. Like Deuces Wild, you're holding pairs and straights. You're trying to connect a deuce with something. So you're going to throw away an ace-king offsuit, right? But then when you're playing double-double, you're going to hold the ace-king offsuit. Or if you're playing triple-double, you only hold the ace. You don't hold like a queen with the ace because you want to try to click 4 aces because it has a higher payout.
Yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong.
I can't confirm or deny all that, but you'll absolutely get killed if you use deuces strategy on a non-deuces game or vice versa because of the importance of those deuces. But you can switch to, say, all the Jacks Are Better based games without too much cost. If you know just the Jacks Are Better strategy, I think you will do okay at anything that doesn't have wild cards.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense then. All right, so I'm not totally in the
video poker world is crazy, man.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's the best return, right? So, I mean, a lot of times it's 97, 98% return to player. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know if they monkey with the 7-5 and it makes it worse, but it seems like the kind of game that you could sit at for a long time. That's generally what I would say. And it sounds like that's what you're looking for. When you're commenting about your preference is low volatility, you're saying, what you're basically saying is the smart gambler is the patient gambler. Just ride the wave. The math will help you over time. I mean, is that kind of the advice?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're gambling with an advantage, you have to look at it long term and don't get upset with the daily ups and downs.
And it's like a part of how much you have, like how much your wallet is, right? If you're playing quarters and you could stretch that out to 2,000 hands, you're going to end up breaking even or over even, sometimes a little under, but if you're playing at a higher denom, $2, $1, and you can't afford it, then you run out of cash and you'll never get it back.
Yeah. So if you're sitting down, do you normally walk in? So my grandparents, when they were gamblers, right? They were poker dealers, and they would play. They go, listen, Michael, if you're gonna gamble with 100, when you get to 200, that's a good day for you. So just get out of there, man. Right? Like you've made your
learning to walk is big.
Well, doubling it up is like a big thing. So it's not $1 million, sure, but you didn't start with a number that's going to get you to $1 million, right? Yeah. Like if you're going to win, like you watch these guys online, like NG, he posts $15,000, $20,000 bonus rounds, but he's putting $20,000 in, betting $150 a spin. So
exactly.
So naturally he's winning. Your dollar player's not getting that. So I guess for you, is that same conventional wisdom? Hey, a double up's a good day, or like at what point do you go in and think, okay, well, like when is it before you walk away? Because obviously math would tell you over time they win. So there's got to be a point where you're ahead, and then you got to say, okay, enough's enough. This is the time. So is there a strategy you have on that?
So it depends on the reason I'm playing.
Yep.
I get asked a lot about when should I stop playing,
sure.
And you hear a lot of other gambling writers saying things like after you've won so many units or you've doubled your money or whatever.
Yeah, right.
I am totally against mathematical voodoo like that.
Okay.
You have to look at the reason you're playing, but in general, I say for the recreational player, you should quit gambling when you're not having fun anymore.
Sure.
For example, if you make enough money for a nice dinner and you're happy, that would be a good time to leave.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you've lost so much that you're getting kind of angry, that would be a good time to leave and cool down. But in my cases, if I'm playing video poker, maybe I'm playing to earn a certain number of points to get a certain level of mailer. Then as soon as I achieve that number of points, I quit. There's no reason to play more. And if I'm playing to achieve, let's say I really need to play a lot to get in the good graces of a particular casino to get invited to a tournament, then I will think of it as a job, and I will calculate I need to play for like 6 hours.
Wow.
And then I'll play 6 hours, win or lose.
It's funny. I always think the real gamble is picking the right machine at the right denom at the right time. Because you can sit down at the right machine and hit four of a kinds pretty quickly.
Well, I mean, think about when we were at Pachanga once, and we were playing just a golf tournament. So we're throwing in. It was you, me, and Burnsy, right? And we play out, and literally we pick up a new machine, 2 hands in, Delta Royal.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't skill. We did not do any mathematical strategy. We just picked the right machine.
Right.
So there's probably
right
some else. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right theme. Right. Variant or whatever.
Well, I can't not respond to that.
Sure.
That it's all about the pay table and the game. And if congratulations if you got a Royal on your second bet. But that doesn't mean that it was like the right machine. If there was a better pay table right next to it, then I would say you were on the wrong machine.
Got it.
And ultimately, my philosophy is it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it's whether you had a good bet. And as long as you're making good bets, then the winnings or just losing less will follow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pretty well.
So what? Okay, so then so it seems like your website, you're analyzing all the games out there. Like I was on there poking around earlier, especially in table games. Like any felt-based table game that has kind of any sort of critical mass, you've analyzed it, you've done the run. Do you invent games? Like, so are you then also going, hey, I've played so many games, I've seen literally every math model there is. Are you sitting around inventing game, pitching cards, trying to come up with the next game, or are you mostly watching, learning, and gambling third-party stuff?
I usually help invent a casino game as somebody might come to me and say, Mike, I have this idea of a casino game and it's going to go roughly like this. And then I'll suggest ways it can be improved. And then if we get into a financial agreement, I'll do the math and really tweak the rules to get that house advantage down to, like 2% or so, depending upon how skillful the game is. The greater the skill, the lower I will set the house advantage. But have I ever invented my own out of the clear blue sky? Yes, I have invented a few. Sadly, none of them have got very far in the market.
Interesting.
But
it's tough to get a new game.
It is
especially
very
in
tough.
tables, because you look at it and you go, there's hundreds that have been invented over the years, and there's maybe 10 must-have games. Right, like must-haves. Blackjack's obviously one of them. And then you talk side bets, but I'm talking about your ultimate, your 3-card, your stud. Your face peg out. Like, there's a few games that you go, these are games casinos have to have. Everything else is like maybe it's a regional favorite.
Some are awesome games. They just never had the chance to make it. Like we always talk about. I left Shuffle 14 years ago, and we just recently came back about a year ago. And I think there's 2 games in that 14 years that actually made it, and one would be Free Bet. Blazing Sevens. I haven't really seen any other carnival games.
Yeah. Well, you got Blackjack Switch. Was that in there? Is that already?
It was before Free Bet. Yeah. So it's a very difficult task. But there's a lot of games that I think would have made it if they had the chance to get some placements and make it out.
But I will say to Michael's skill set and being we'll call it just the math guy, is I've now, a year into sitting in charge of tables here. There's so many inventors that'll pitch you. It's a great game. Look at this. Isn't it fun?
It's number one.
Well, forget about number one or not, but they'll just tell you, hey, this is a great game. And then they go, I'm like, cool, what's the house size? We need to figure out the math. We'll figure out the math. And it's like, you can't just wave your hand and say you'll figure out the math. Like, it's kind of the most important part of the whole game. I mean, fun is also helpful, but when fun pays the player 110%, it doesn't make sense, right? So it's always interesting. So I'm not surprised that it's been folks approaching you saying, all right, so we think we have something, but can you make the math work?
Yeah, and it's hard on me if they present to me just an absolutely horrible game. And then they say, what do you think of it? Expecting me to lavish them with a lot of praise. And how do you discreetly tell these nice people that they just have an awful game?
Yeah, it's I've heard a few. So there's been different operators that I've interacted with that'll say, how do you look at a new game, right? And the first two things they say, and to be fair, math isn't one of them. They say, can I understand the game in a minute or less? So if I'm going to sit down, a lot of times they'll lay out the felt and they start dealing the game. If I can get a sense of how to play this game in about a minute, you're probably you're one step closer. And the other one is then, am I having fun? So if in that minute I've gone, oh, okay, cool, I can see where now I'm chasing an ace or I'm chasing whatever I get the gimmick and I'm willing to kind of go along with it, then you're on to something. And then obviously the third and maybe most important step is the math has to all check out. But it's an interesting world of like the pitching of games and trying to conceptualize, because you're kind of limited, right? I mean, historically you have 52 cards in the deck, and how many combos can you come?
So with that being said, games are getting increasingly more difficult to place into brick and mortar casinos, but we still have to evolve, right? The table games business still has to evolve, and so speaking to you, Michael, what do you think the next big evolution of the table game space is? Is it new carnival games? Is it new side bets? What do you think our business heads into the future?
That's a good question. I often say that it's usually the copycats that are successful. If you look at history, it's blackjack and poker is what most successful games are based upon.
Right.
You look at something that's already out there and you twist a little bit. Yeah. And so I think it's going to continue in that direction for a while. And the players, I think, are hungry for something new. The last big new game is Face-Up Pai-Gow Poker, and that is a variant of regular Pai-Gow Poker. And as I'm sure you know, there's a disincentive to inventing casino games right now, because basically you can't get patented a new game unless there's some kind of a physical element to it. So I warn people, if this is a success, anyone can just copy it for free.
That's what game inventor, if you're listening and you're a game inventor right now, that's what you should be thinking. How do you gamify the games that already work? How do you create a progressive? How do you take a variant of a game and make it more exciting?
Well, there's that. That's I think the ultimate. That's I think the ultimate. How will the game be successful? Right. But then to his point, here's the problem. Like, I get these calls all the time. Hey, we've invented a new game. We want you to see it. And it's like, yo, I can't look at it yet. Yeah. I mean, I could, but there's some ethics there. I don't want to take your game, because I could just walk away and go, well, I'm just going to make that my game and not pay you anything. So we have kind of a procedure here to ensure, we're all kind of protected there. But then the other thing is, let's say we do a deal. It's like, I don't know how to pay you, man, because the model's changed in the business too, right? So most folks are on these all-you-can-eat table game plans. So it's like, hey, you got 100 tables. Here's your fee for 100 tables. Do whatever you want. Yeah. It's the Wild West, right? So me being able to say, okay, Mr. Shackleford, great game. Here's 500 placements of it. X amount of money goes back to you. Like, those days, I don't want to say they're over, but they're much harder to achieve again, right? Based on the lack of, protectability in table games. And then there's really no incentive for folks on our side of the table going, yeah, let's do these deals.
You almost have to get to that install base by yourself too, and it's 100. I think 100. Actually, I think Roger once said it was like 30 plus, and you're kind of on your way. But
interesting. When
you hit 100, then you have a successful game. But to do that on your own is millions of dollars.
It's certainly. I mean, maybe if you're here, if you're in Vegas, you could probably go out and knock on a few doors. But yeah, I don't know.
It's so hard to get to just one, not to mention 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have that champion, that person that maybe it's your buddy who runs the table games at XYZ Casino that'll give you that placement or two, yeah, you're stuck. Because I do agree. Again, now it's different maybe when you're our size going in, because I don't want to say we invented table games. We're certainly the leader. So people go, oh, it's you guys will take a chance, right? You're telling me it's a new game, maybe we'll put it in. But if you're just a guy like walking down the road, first question, well, who else has this game? And I feel like no one wants to be the first one. Maybe there's people out there, but for the most part, not, right? And it's like, okay, because then you got all the effort, train the dealers.
Isn't it funny how it's so different on the slot side that it's almost casinos want to be the first?
Not almost, they absolutely want it.
I think table games.
I think if you go to every market in the United States, there's one or two casinos that'll say, I want to be first in the new slot game.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think for West Coast, I can think of exactly who they are, right? So, yeah, not surprised at all.
So what is your favorite table game?
I love Pai Gow tiles, not to be confused with Pai Gow poker.
Interesting.
Dang.
And Pai Gow poker is actually a variant of Pai Gow tiles, which is played with 32 dominoes.
Yeah.
And it follows the same structure of dividing your tiles into a high and low hand. But it's very complicated, the whole hand order.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah, but I love it. You tend to see smart people at the table.
Very smart.
And many people are impressed that a non-Asian even understands the game. But I would like to think that I integrated Pai Gow tiles because before I got into it,
have you ever seen it? It looks like a New York Stock Exchange with these tiles, and people know exactly what's going on.
I've seen it. I have not played it, to be fair, but I do think, not with the tiles, I played the poker version. I'm just laughing at the comment that a non-Asian could figure it out, because part of me is going, it must just be a cultural, like that's just a game you grew up with. And like I think I've told on the pod before, like we were playing blackjack at the kitchen table at grandma's house, right? Like that was just a American card game, no big deal. So when I turned 21, blackjack was easy, relatively. Yeah, maybe that's how it is in Asian culture for Pai Gow.
Yeah, when I lived in Baltimore in the 90s, the closest place to gamble was Atlantic City, and you saw a lot of Pai Gow there. And at that time, I never saw anyone who wasn't Asian playing it. And I asked the supervisors, can I see the rules of this game? We don't have them.
You're supposed to know before you come.
And I would sometimes say, well, how do the dealers know what to do? And they just say, it's just a game they understand. So I think that for a long time, it was just a game that just got passed verbally, like what the rules are from person to person.
Imagine being the guy, like I could see me walking up going, all right, because I don't have I'm okay with my confidence level, right? So I guess my point in saying this is I wouldn't have a problem sitting down going, all right, folks, how do we play this? and everybody looking at me going, sir, get the hell out of here. Like, what do you mean? How do you play? Go Google it.
Can we do a mini-series of that?
Just me sitting at a random table.
They're not going to say anything to you.
That's my point. Like, they're going to look. They'll say, if they speak different languages, they might be saying a lot. But it's it's interesting because that might be why, because it's very intimidating. Like I got buddies that I know that are Marines that they didn't want to walk up just to a dice table and go, hey, like, can you walk me through it? Then we had to go, hey, come at like 4. No one's around. We can slow play it. They'll teach you the game. Because at 8 p.m. when that thing's buzzing, you don't want to be the guy going, I'm sorry, what's the come bet? What does that mean? You're like, dude, you got to go. So I can only imagine that in Pai Gow, especially if there's a language barrier or some other sort of roadblock to understanding. But there you go. You're the Pai Gow guy, though.
Yeah. So anyway, one day, after going from casino to casino at the Trump Plaza, I asked the same question. Do you have anything in writing about this game in English? And he dug around the pit and he came up with the rules and as well as the house way. And I said, wow, do you mind if I copy this, expecting to get a no answer because it didn't have the phone number to Gamblers Anonymous on it.
Okay.
Like in Atlantic City, everything has to have that phone number on it.
Yeah.
And and there was a casino before, the Tropicana, that had a similar document, and I asked to copy it. And at first he said yes, and then he looked at it and he says, no, I can't give it to you because it doesn't have the Gamblers Anonymous phone number. And I said, well, can I just write it down?
Just write it on here.
Yeah. But he said no. But the Trump Plaza was much cooler, let me write it down. So then I had the information I needed and could program the game and figure out how it should be played and all that jazz and put it on my website. So it was the first place in English, to my understanding, that explained the rules to the public of Pai Gow tiles in English.
Did you see a decent amount of traffic for people trying to understand that? Like, were people then going, "Oh, thank God, Shackleford just put this on his website"? Like, was it? Well, because I don't know, right? Like, to me, it's like one of those games.
Influx of white playing Pai Gow poker.
Just not it's called English speakers, right? But like, you just look at it and you go, "Well, that could be interesting." But or do the people go, "I don't know, it's that crazy tile game. I don't even look at it." Like, I just wonder what was the demand.
I don't know exactly, but I've received so many compliments from people who say, thanks for showing me this game. I love it too. And if I hate to stereotype, but if you see anyone who's not Asian playing it, they learned it from me.
There you go.
And it's and oftentimes they'll say, "Hey, are you the Wizard of Odds?
Yeah.
Oh, I learned the game from your site. Thank you so much."
How good is that? That's gonna be pretty interesting. Like, how do you receive that commentary when you're out at gambling? Because do you want to stay under the radar? Like, do you care that people know who you are? Because I feel like you're not doing anything wrong, and I don't know if you're still counting cards, but like as it goes, there's probably casinos going, this guy, man, he did all the math. He sits, studies the game, comes in. Maybe he's only beating us for red chips, but it's enough for a steak dinner a week or whatever he's getting, right? Like, do you want to stay incognito, or are you happy to have folks come up to you and just say, hey, thanks for teaching us the ways?
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
And it's usually people that work for the casinos that are the nicest.
Okay, yeah.
It's happened quite a few times that I'm just playing a game with, say, a visiting friend, and someone in a suit comes down and introduces himself. I'm the shift manager, and someone in a surveillance said, "You're here. Just wanted to introduce myself. I love your site." And so,
that's cool.
So it's ironic that although the site was meant for players to help them, it seems like the people on the other side of the table that are the most grateful.
I think so. Look, I tell anyone that asks me, because I get some questions, hey, I don't really understand tables. How do I learn? It's like, well, if you want to learn the games, I point them to your site, because you can pretty much go to any game, click on it, get the breakdown, pay tables, explainers. So that's a huge resource. Even for me, I'm looking at somebody says, hey, have you played this game? Well, no, but I can probably digest it in 2 minutes if I go over here, wizardofoz.com. And then the other one is the Tantangam we talked about with Ari, because he's got a lot of the operational stuff. So like if you're new to like running the casino, it's like, they got a lot of good math and good white papers there. So now that makes sense. I'm not surprised actually that a lot of the staff are the ones looking to learn, because there's not a lot of resource. Like if you're new, think about it, you're 22 years old, coming out of college, you're going to go get a dealer's job. I mean, you're going to learn the popular games, but where are you going to learn all the specialty games?
Well,
Probably
thank
on
you.
the website. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and to go backwards, if I may, when you asked about my favorite games, I also love Ultimate Texas Hold'em, your own game.
Yep.
Perfect.
So everyone should know that if played correctly, that has a low house advantage of just 0.53% measured over everything that you bet.
Sure. So that is very low. That's actually better than blackjack.
It is, most of the time.
Played correctly. So what mistakes does the basic player make there?
I have played a fair bit of UTH, and players just butcher that game. They're afraid to make the big 4X bets, and they're afraid to fold. They usually will make the small or the medium raise, but you have to take risks in that game, and don't be afraid to make the 4X bet. For example, not many people would make the 4X raise with ace-2 offsuit, but you're supposed to.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's counter to your earlier comment about volatility, but here you're saying, look, be aggressive, and the game will reward you for that behavior.
Yeah, most players in any game play too timidly.
Yeah, certainly if you're playing with, like, I don't know, I'd call it real money.
MaxBet?
MaxBet, yeah, bet max always. But yeah, no, I think, I don't know if we were just talking about this with Benny, but it's like for me, red chips, do whatever you want, right? Like you're not going to bankrupt me at a $5 per bet spot. Start getting into greens and blacks. I know I'm supposed to bet 4X, Mike, but now it's $400, and I can picture whatever I was going to buy with that money, evaporating from me as I lose the hand or whatever. But no, it's good. It's good advice. Is all that broken down on the website?
Yep, absolutely. The very close to optimal strategy is on my website as well as my book, and I would say that you should do the right thing, play your cards the right way, and if you're hesitant to throw out that 4X raise on, say, King 5 offsuit, which you should, then I would say you should be betting less. Bet at a level where you're comfortable making the 4X raise.
Has that ever worked against you, being the Wizard of Odds, going into a property and they're like, oh shit, Michael Shackleford's here. He's playing double deck blackjack, and we know he knows the math. Like, have you been asked to leave or asked to calm it down? Or
Well, I've been asked to not play blackjack many times, and I have been put on what's called the DNI list that a lot of casinos do not invite because I'm abusing the comps. And that's fine. It's a cat and mouse game. As long as both sides are civil about it, it's all good. But sometimes I do get a nasty response. Like one time I was just playing clean play at the old Hilton, and somebody in a suit came down and said, I'm watching you.
Naturally, that was actually the mobster's son. He knew. He came back. Yeah, of course. That's interesting. But that was it. He just let you know he was watching, but he didn't actually. Yeah,
he was so excited. That made his day. Like big power.
It's like I've been waiting to intimidate a player for weeks, and
but
here's
I could picture them watching me in surveillance for hours. Like I don't understand what he's up to.
Yeah, you've ruined their day, by the way, because the last thing I would imagine those guys want to do is watch a single guy play his hands, right? Like I don't know, maybe not. I've never worked in security, but I would imagine like there's probably some fun in watching the whole property rather than just zooming in on the wizard's hands here, going, okay, what did he do there? He's got ace. Okay, what is that, good or bad? I don't know. Like this is probably before AI was telling them what to do, right? So they got to think about all the different things. You mentioned your book, so it's Gambling 102. I have a copy here, available on Amazon if you're interested. And this is a book of tips and tricks for folks. And what a game. Face Up, Pi Got Poker, the first one to open to. So if you're a player, you want to learn some advantages, you could buy this and get some kind of in-depth strategies for, I don't know, how to maybe tilt the odds in your favor. Is that kind of the way to say it?
My goal is more so to cut the house advantage as much as you can. Sure. That book doesn't get into advantage play very deeply.
Yep.
And however, the third edition will be coming out soon, hopefully sometime in the summer, and that's going to have a very deeper treatment about slot machines and when is a good point to jump in games like Ocean Magic or Golden Egypt, according to the state the last player left it in.
So is there any preview you can give us on that to say maybe there's some tricks you want to talk through? Like what can you share with us, I guess?
Let's see. I know, for example, in Ocean Magic, if you have a bubble in the first 3 rows, then you should play it until that bubble floats off the screen.
The persistence.
In regular mode. In bubble burst mode, then you don't want to do that if the bubble is in reel 1 or 2 and in the bottom or the top row. And you can tell where the bubbles are. The gist of that game is that the game, sometimes a bubble, which are wild, will just randomly be placed on the bottom of the screen, and they will bubble up 1 position the next 4 games until they float off.
Yeah, right.
So if a player left you bubbles that are going to still be on the screen the next bet,
gotta play
then
those.
then it's good for you. And if there are enough bubbles in the right position, then it's a good time to play. And I'm going to go through several games that are what I call accumulation or variable state slots and when to play them.
That's amazing. And then so so you went through a few things there. So obviously the bubble's on the screen. That one seems like one maybe you and I would have figured out. Like, you left me a bubble.
I haven't played that game.
Fair. But if you play the game and you get the concept of what the bubble does, right? Like we have games,
like Dragon
Unleashed has that same style feature where like you can unleash, I can't remember the symbol, shame on me, but it comes on the first row and it'll stay. Yep. I think it's actually the lock and the hold, the symbol that you need the 6 of to trigger the bonus. Will hit the screen and it'll stay for 2 more spins.
Persistence or whatever.
Real persistence, right? It's on the screen 2 more times, right? And so once you understand that seems, but then when you started getting into it, you're like, well, unless the bubble's on reel 3, in which case, and it's like, so how much of the math that like, did you have access to the actual math of the game, or did you have to just sit and play and like make notes for everything as you broke these games down?
Yeah, good question. Is with Ocean Magic, for example, I played that. I took a lot of notes. Where are the bubbles? Like how often are they coming up on each reel? And there's another feature where if a bubble is on the same position as the logo symbol, then it expands to all the neighboring positions. And so I played it a fair bit, took video, analyzed the video, and then I created like a simplified version of it at home, and I ran simulations on it. And I tried to figure out, okay, with this strategy, what's the RTP? Well, if with this one, what is it? And I tried to figure out a simple way to explain how many bubbles you need and where they should be for it to go over 100%. So no, I never got any par sheets or any inside information on them. It was all based on what I could observe with my own eyes, and in some cases, other what I call slot vultures secretly gave me their advice. They wish to remain anonymous about it.
That's okay. Slot vultures, what a term. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, because that's, I guess, the dark side of the persistence game is the vultures exist, right? Because they're watching you go, okay, well, you don't get no money left. Get out of here so I can play your bubbles, right, or whatever. But yeah, it's an interesting world.
I'm curious your thoughts on influencers today in the gaming industry. So like in the past, when we needed information or wanted to learn, I mean, the gaming space was so aloof, right? And now we're kind of able to film in the casino. We're able to show our wins on slot machines and table games. But it's this whole new kind of phenomenon of influencers in gaming. And what is your kind of
So
take?
do you mean these people that have like YouTube channels that show them playing slots or whatever?
Correct, yeah.
I don't know too much about that. When I do need to learn about, say, a new slot game, it's good because I can watch their play for free.
Yeah.
However, a problem there is that they tend to cherry pick what they show, and you always
True.
You always see them hitting the big jackpots.
Yep.
Whereas I want to see just normal play.
Yeah, better watching them live then, right?
Yeah.
Because like NG or Lady like they'll go live and they'll just play. I mean, they have no choice; they're just playing live. So, but yeah, I think when they edit it, it becomes because you play. I mean, some of these guys might play live for an hour before they get the jackpot they want to show you, and then they're obviously not going to make the YouTube video an hour just to get to know. They're going to shrink it. They always do say though, "Hey, we didn't win every spin, so be mindful." But yeah,
That's a dangerous game.
I'm a jackpot fan though. I'd rather just watch
Yeah.
because I know, right? I know you're not going to get it every spin. So it's dangerous if you don't know and you think, hey, every spin's a winner. This guy's winning 25 grand a clip, right? That's a problem. But I think they do a pretty good job balancing out, showing the losses and the wins. At least the top channels do anyway.
And it's good for me that I do get to see some of the bonuses that may be hard to hit and maybe I don't have the patience or want to invest in to wait for. So I just go online and search on whatever game and what type of bonus it is, and sure enough, you'll see people hitting it.
And there you go. Well, now it's in the math model. And Mike will tell you how to win in book 3.
It gets expensive when you want to figure out how that combination goes on your own. I've been there before chasing it.
Yeah. My problem with you is that you've gotten me to help you chase it, and we've also lost. So it's like, hey, give me another couple hundred.
But we've also won.
True. Yeah, we're probably even, I would say. Maybe you're up for sure. So all this talk about gambling, and you're a gambler yourself. Do you have any fun gambling stories? I mean, you kind of alluded to some raspy pit bosses giving you a hard time, but what's like the biggest jackpot you've won, or do you have a proud moment where you go, wow, this was the one where I got all the points I needed, or any?
Sadly, I don't have any great stories. I used to be big into playing baccarat on blackjack tournaments. I would like to think I'm quite good at it, but twice I have lost $300,000 tournaments based on the turn of one card.
No way.
I had basically a 50% chance of winning, and didn't go my way.
Went the other way. Jeez. So what's your quick on the blackjack? I feel like blackjack tournament's probably more mass relatable than baccarat tournament, especially with our audience. So is there any? I mean, obviously the game changes because you're looking at maybe 10 hands, or there's some limited maybe chip stack that you get to bet. How does your strategy change in the blackjack tournament from just sitting at a grind out blackjack session?
My basic strategy with any tournament, but especially blackjack and baccarat, is that the dealer is not the enemy. It's the other players. Your goal is to beat those other players. And sometimes you have to push it out there. In fact, most of the time, you will have to shove all in once and maybe twice and just hope for the best. And what I like to do is, let's say it's 25 hands. I usually bet just the minimum, say the first 18 or so, because it does sometimes happen that the table is just cold and everybody busts out, and you can advance by doing nothing. But most of the time you can see some people bust out, but some people win. And so you know what my goal should be. Like this player, like say I have 50,000, but this guy has 200,000. He's my biggest competitor. I'm going to need to shove out at least once. And a good time to shove in your chips is when your opponent bets small. So a good strategy is that if you are not in the lead, then you want to be a contrarian to your biggest opponent. When he bets small, you bet big. When he bets big, you bet small. And if you are in the lead, then you want to match your opponents. When they bet big, you bet big.
So they can't gain on you.
Yeah.
Because the theory is you're both going to have the same revenue.
Yeah, and you see the same strategy in Final Jeopardy, by the way.
Yeah, but in Final Jeopardy, how do you know that? So I get it.
Yeah,
I get it so in blackjack, I would imagine you're sitting there and you go, okay, Landon's in the lead, so he's going to stack out whatever. I'll just say 1,000. Let's pretend that's a lot. And then I'm going to go, okay, well, I don't want to bet big when he's bet big, so I'll put 100. Or vice versa, right? Like the 10 times ratio, right? When in Jeopardy, you don't know. Everyone's writing their thing down in secret, right? I mean, I don't think everybody gets to see
But you know what everybody's score is.
Yeah, you know where they are. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And lots
so you
of
kind
times
of assume what they're going to do.
Yeah, and lots of times you have to randomize, especially in second place. And it gets the game theory actually gets rather involved if the second place player has more than 2/3 of the first place player. And then it becomes a situation where randomizing is called for both the first and second place players. And it's much like the same in tournaments. Sometimes there needs to be an element of surprise. And there's also a big positional advantage in tournaments. So the player to act last has a big advantage because he can see what the players, how they have acted before him.
Sure.
And lots of times you have to calculate, okay, there's this many hands left. Here's the person who's has the positional advantage now. When will it be my turn to act last? And that is the best time to take a chance and go big.
Yeah.
So I had one more question outside of that. We're not going to jump into the call out just yet, but you mentioned that you were thinking about retiring in the next 2 years.
Oh, that's right.
And you've done a number for the gaming industry, so we thank you for that. I remember going onto your website decade ago. What are you going to do in retirement?
Well, thank you, and you're welcome. Yeah. So I turn 58 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'm thinking of retiring at age 60.
Yep.
And I have a lot of adventures planned. I'd like to think I'm already a very adventurous person with climbing a lot of mountains and things like that. And that's going to be my time to travel the world and climb mountains and bicycle all over the place.
Do you have any mountains on your target list? Like, I don't know. Like, so I'm not a mountain climber. So I know, like, you got, like, Everest and K2. So there's some that are, like, world famous mountains. Are there some that are on your list? I don't know. Is Everest done on your list? How's that rank? Or what mountains are you looking at?
Yeah, Everest is not. It's very...
That's a beast, right?
Well, it's also because it's so crowded and it's very expensive to do. I wouldn't mind doing one of the 8,000 meter peaks, and there are about 10 of them. And I pick one of the ones that is fairly easy and not traveled so much and not so expensive. But this year I'm looking at climbing Mount Olympus, Washington, not the one in Greece.
Okay.
And I'm thinking of reclimbing Mount Shasta. I want to do the state high points in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm thinking about...
that's an interesting idea, though, to say, look, these are the highest points in each state. Go climb to that.
Yeah,
I never even thought of that as a bucket list.
Yeah, I've already done the state high points in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico.
So
I'm trying to do all of the western states.
That's wild.
How is Shasta? I heard it's like a magical mountain, and you're supposed to leave hiking that mountain a new person. Is that true?
I've done it before, and I did not know that, but it's a great climb. Yep. And this year would be a great time to do it because it got so much snow, and I would much rather climb on ice than rocks. But it's... I had a great time on it. I'd highly recommend it, but I didn't get it. I was still basically the same person.
Yeah, so no existential transformation.
But speaking of existential transformations, I want to tell your listeners, that on April 8th, 2024, there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun. Yeah. It's going to cut through the United States from Texas to Maine, and I highly, highly recommend seeing a total eclipse at some time in your life. And don't confuse this with a partial eclipse. Those are rather ordinary. There's something really special about a total eclipse. We had another one in 2017. If you missed that one, definitely try to catch the one in 2024. Again, April 8th. If you miss this one, you're not going to have another chance in the United States until the year 2045.
Dang.
And you said from Texas to Maine, so you should probably be East Coast to see it?
The one in 2017, if that's what you're asking.
No, I thought the one upcoming. So April 8th, can I just walk out of my house in Vegas and see it?
No,
I have to be somewhere. Where's like optimal
You want to be in the
geography?
eclipse path. So just because you're in Texas doesn't mean you're going to be seeing the moon completely cover the sun. You need to be in a narrow path that's about 25 miles wide. And cities in Texas that are going to be in the path are Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas. However, you don't want to just be anywhere in those cities. You want to be right in the middle of the path. And Waco, Texas is right in the middle. That's where I'm going to be.
Nice.
That's great. My sister has a ranch right outside of Austin, so
hopefully it's in the 25-mile path.
I'm hoping as well.
If not, you stay there and drive to the path. That'd be cool. I don't know that I've ever seen it, and if I have, well, I can't say I have, because I feel like it's something I'd remember, right? So to see that the way that you're describing it, but might be worth a bucket list trip.
Last question. Should we fire it off?
Buddy.
So you answered the call out. Thank you from Benny.
Yeah.
Who would you like to call out? Who would you like to see on the show? You get a chance to call someone out as well.
How about James Holzhauer? speaking of Jeopardy, he is I believe, the biggest money-winning player on Jeopardy. Not the number of games. Ken Jennings has that record. And he played a very mathematical strategy. And he's a professional sports bettor.
Interesting.
Perfect.
I challenge you to challenge him to come on the show.
Do you know him?
I only met him briefly at the gaming show, and there is a Jeopardy slot machine, and he was doing a promotional thing where he won a prize if you could beat him in a 3-question round of Jeopardy. So I played against him, and of course he won. But he was familiar with my website, and he gave me a compliment on it.
That's cool.
So I was proud of that.
We'll reference that in our social media message to him. The wizard called you out. You got to come on. Perfect.
That'd be awesome.
That would be fun. Talk about not being the smartest guy in the room in that interview. we say it all the time. That'll definitely be, that's like leaps and bounds.
It's a different kind of smart. That's for
True,
sure.
yeah. We're good at other things.
We're good at other things.
Well, it's been fun. Believe it or not, time went fast.
Thank you so much. Those were great questions.
Thank you. Yeah. And like we said earlier, Gambling 102. If you haven't checked it out, Amazon.com, you can get it, or just go learn for free. Wizardofodds.com. Check them out. Yeah, it'll be fun. Appreciate it. Till next time.
Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, you got it.
Adios.